Hey guys, it's Casey, and today we're going to talk about the series that I still need to finish. So I read primarily fantasy and science fiction, and because of that, I tend to read a lot of books that are in series. So generally speaking, I'm pretty good at finishing series. Once I start one, I either tend to finish them back to back, or I'll space it out so I do one a month. And that way I only have a couple of series going at a time, or at least that's what I thought. So when I was prepping this video, I actually was looking at all of the series both on my shelves and that I've gotten from the library and things like that, looking through Goodreads, that I haven't finished, and it's like 25, and that's a lot more than I was expecting it to be. So today I'm just going to talk to you about all of the series that I am currently in the middle of. So I'm going to break it down by genre, and I'm also going to mention if a series isn't completed. So if the last book or something like that hasn't been published, I'll point that out, but I'm still going to include it on this list since it's still a series that I have to kind of like keep track of in my mind. That makes sense. So first up, the contemporary series I haven't finished. Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. So this is a YA mystery series about a girl who is trying to solve this mystery at a boarding school for people who have like elite talents. I started this one back earlier this year, enjoyed it, got it from the library, and the library didn't have the rest of them, so I never picked it back up. You by Caroline Kepnes. I think this is technically a series, but I only gave this one 2 stars. I have no desire to finish it out. This is an adult thriller about a man who is stalking a woman, and it kind of shows you from like his perspective as he's talking to you in second person as the woman he's stalking. And that's it for contemporary, so let's go ahead and move on to sci-fi. We have the Locked Tomb trilogy, so Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth. I have actually read both of these, and I am liking them a lot so far, and all I'm doing is waiting on Electo the Ninth to be published next year. This series is lesbian necromancers in space. There's a lot of skeletons, there's a lot of really freaky magic, it's fun. Next is the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers, which includes A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, Closed in Common Orbit, and A Record of a Spaceborne Few, I think. I don't own that one yet. So I've only read the first one, and despite it being one of my favorite books, I have not managed to actually continue the series yet at all. So this first one follows the crew of the Wayfarer, and it just kind of really explores a lot of themes of found family as it talks about them going about their space adventures. Next is the Murderbot Diaries. So this is a series of novellas that I read the first one and then have yet to continue on. I've been getting them from the library. It just hasn't happened yet. So this is about a sentient robot who calls itself Murderbot as it kind of goes through and tries to figure out what it is. Next is the Hainish Cycle by Ursula K. Le Guin. I think there are like 15 books in this series, but they're not all directly connected. They're just kind of in the same universe. The only one I've read and that I own is The Dispossessed. And I think this is technically number 6, but again, you don't have to read them in order. They're all sci-fi books set in this broader universe and explore some kind of theme that is usually like theoretically or politically charged. It's classic sci-fi. Next, we've got graphic novels and manga. Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. So this is one of my favorites of all time, and the only reason it's on this list is because this series is not yet complete. We've been on hiatus for I think about 2 years, but the authors say that this is the halfway point, so hopefully this is a series that I still need to finish. This follows Alana and Marco, who are from 2 different warring planets as they are on the run because they have had a baby together named Hazel. Next, I've got The Wicked and the Divine by Gillen McKelvey and Wilson Cowles. So this is a graphic novel about gods who reincarnate every like century or something like that, and they have to be worshipped. So in our generation, they are reincarnated as pop stars and like idols and things like that, and this follows the gods coming back. I started reading this one a long time ago and then I just never bought the rest of them, but I believe this is a finished series and I actually am going to pick this up again soon. Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Darsky. So this is a series that my friend got me once when I was in high school. It is about these 2 people who when they have sex stop time, they find each other, find out that they can both have this ability, and decide to do the only logical thing with it, which is to rob banks. Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. So I actually have the 2nd volume of this, but I've only read the first one. This is a graphic memoir about the author's time growing up in Iran during the Islamic Revolution. My Hero Academia by Kohei Horikoshi. So these I believe are still being published. I only have the first 2 volumes right now, but I just kind of started picking these up again and I'm gonna burn through them soon. This follows our main character Midoriya as he lives in a world where about 80% of the population have these quirks, which are basically superpowers, and he navigates this new superhero society as he goes to a school to train to become a superhero. Ouran High School Host Club by Bisco Hatsuri. This is a romantic comedy about a girl named Haruhi who is on scholarship at a very prestigious boarding school, and she accidentally racks up a debt with the host club and has to work as a host to pay it off. Kill 6 Billion Demons by Tom Parkinson Morgan. This is a series one of my friends has been encouraging me to get into for a long time. I think it's originally a webcomic, but he got me the first volume for my birthday, and it is about this girl who is kind of ripped from her life and found out that she is able to sort of kill demons, and it's got a pretty cool art style. So lastly, we get into the biggest category, which is fantasy, and I've kind of crammed YA and adult fantasy together because that can get a little weird sometimes, and honestly I didn't feel like making two categories. First we have Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I have read The Final Empire and The Well of Ascension. I'm supposed to read The Hero of Ages this month, but spoiler alert, that is not going to happen. Love this series. It is finished. There is also like an Era 2. I don't know if that's considered the same series or not, but whatever. So this follows the premise of what if the Dark Lord won, and it's set in a world where the magic is based on metals, and it follows this girl Vin as she joins up with the thieving crew to kind of take down the Final Empire. Next we have, and I'm not going to hold them all up, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Excuse me, Loki. So I have all of the books that are published. This one is not a completed series yet, probably. I have read the first three, so A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, and A Storm of Swords. So I have two more left of the ones that are published, but I'm taking my way through them slowly since they're not completely published yet. But this is a grimdark fantasy series that is about a bunch of different factions fighting for power. The Great Cities by N.K. Jemisin. The first one is The City We Became, and it came out this year, so this is a brand new series, so I'm caught up, but this one is not yet completed. This is about the idea that cities, once they have a distinct enough kind of culture and personality, are actually born and they manifest into this avatar, and this follows all of the boroughs of New York as they try to make sure that the birth of New York City goes well. Next is The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. I'm holding up Ship of Magic here because this is the next one I have up. Realm of the Elderlings is a 14 or 16 book series that encompasses a couple of smaller series within it. So I have finished the Farseer trilogy and I need to start the Live Ship Traders, which is the Ship of Magic. So this is an adult fantasy series that is very political, very slow moving. This series within it, I think, follows the crew of the ship who live in a world that is the aftermath of that first trilogy, and the ships come alive if I think 3 generations of their family die on it. I don't know exactly how it works yet. I haven't finished it, but all of these, all 14, 16 of them have been published already, and I'm just slowly making my way through them. They're massive. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I have The Poppy War and The Dragon Republic, both of which I have finished. The third book, The Burning God, comes out in November, and I'm so excited for it. So this is a grimdark fantasy series that is based on Chinese history and really focuses a light on the horrors of war. Next is one I don't think I've talked about yet, but that is The Legend of Drizzt by R.A. Salvatore. So this is a series that is set in the Forgotten Realms of D&D, and it follows a dark elf named Drizzt as he kind of figures out his place in the world and fights his way kind of out of the Underdark and sees what's up with the rest of the world. So there's a ton of books in this series. This is a bind-up of the first 3, and I think I've actually read only the first like 1.5 of them, but it's been a couple years. I had to stop because there were going to be spoilers for a D&D campaign I was actively playing it at the time, so I need to get back to this one because I did really like it. Next we have Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So of these, I've only read Daughter of Smoke and Bone, but I do own Dreams of Gods and Monsters and Days of Blood and Starlight. This is a YA fantasy series about kind of the war between angels and demons, essentially, and it follows our heroine as she kind of works for a chimera or demon sort of master, and she encounters an angel. I gave the first one 3 stars. I liked it. I don't really know why I haven't picked the rest of these up. I probably should. Next is the Wayward Children series by Shauna McGuire. So I just started this one last month, so I've only read Every Heart a Doorway. I'm really excited to get to Down Among the Sticks and Bones because I've heard it's great. This one's also still being published, but this is about children who take doorways into magical worlds, and this is kind of about what happens to them when they come back from that, or it talks about their stories and their time in that world in like a prequel kind of a sense. It depends on which book you're looking at. The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. So this is a series that is also still being published, but there are going to be 20 books. I think book 17 was just published this past month. So I have just finished book 11 and I am having a great time. This is an adult urban fantasy series about Wizard for Hire Harry Dresden as he works with the Chicago PD and as a private investigator to solve all kinds of mysteries about the supernatural. Next is the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. I know, this is a series that my roommate was letting me borrow, and I finished the first 3, so I've read up through City of Glass, and I've never continued on with like the second half of this series, and I've never read any of Cassandra Clare's other series, so whoops. Do I even need to say what this one's about? It's about demon hunters, essentially, and the world is supernatural. It is a YA urban fantasy. Next is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. So I own The Last Magician and The Devil's Thief. This is a, I think, YA fantasy series. This is a girl who is sent back in time to stop a heist that occurred to kind of help save the world from this magical barrier that is around New York City. The third book was slated to come out in December of this year, but it has been pushed back to I think April of 2021, so looking forward to that. And finally, the last series I think I am in the middle of is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. So I have Children of Blood and Bone and Children of Virtue and Vengeance. So the third one, I'm actually not sure when it comes out, but I really enjoyed the first one, didn't enjoy the second one quite as much. This is a YA fantasy that is very reminiscent of Avatar: The Last Airbender actually, but it is based on West African mythology. Okay, so I think that is all of the series that I am in the middle of. Hopefully I can actually manage to get through all of these, not to mention all of the series that I have yet to start. But yeah, if you've read any of these, let me know which ones I should prioritize, because again, there's 25 of them and I can only read so much. But that's all I've got for you guys today. If you want to keep up with what I'm reading, I have a link to my Goodreads in the description below, but I'll see you guys next time.